Hey there, everybody. This is Kevin from the Survivor Super Fun Time Show. You've seen me before, but who you haven't seen on this channel before. This right next to me, this is Mike Turner of the Vati tribe. This is the guy that through Survivor 42, he survived a lot of people, including Daniel Strunk, basically losing his idol for a period of time. I'm impressed that he had such a strength to not actually strangle him like Homer and Bart Simpson, made it all the way to the final tribal council, one fire to get there, and did an amazing job. And today, this man from Hoboken, New Jersey, is sitting here and ready to talk to us about Survivor 45, episode 3. And we're very thankful to have him. Michael, how are you doing today, buddy?
What is up, Kevin? I'm excited to be here. I haven't had a great intro like that, not even on Survivor. So thank you for the intro. It was a great experience, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today, Kevin.
Thank you very much, buddy. All that was right off the top of my head. Mind you, I've been thinking about that moment where you were with Daniel and you're just like, oh, where's it at? And he's like, oh, no, I put it here somewhere. And I was like, oh my God, if I was Mike, I would want to just sock him right there. How did you lose it?
I'm going to tell you, 22-year-old Mike would have dragged him around the jungle a little bit, but being a little older out there, I knew I had to keep my cool, but trust me, inside, I was boiling up. He's telling me I didn't give him my idol. I know I gave it to him, and he's telling me he doesn't have it. And then in that few minutes, I have to decide, is he playing me and he's trying to pull something on me, or did he really lose the idol? And so all that, and meanwhile, trying to keep it from the rest of the castmates, my tribe out there who are wondering where we are, and I'm dragging them around the jungle trying to find my idol.
Oh my God, yeah. Like you just want to grab him by the hair and say, like, all right, is he here? Is he?
Yes.
And that was difficult.
Did do that, by the way. I kind of did. Let's go. We're gonna go look for it right now.
He's like, I guess we got, like, I don't know, man. I'm getting kind of tired. No. Get back here.
Good. We found it. There's no problem. I go, there's no problem. Are you out of your mind? There's a problem.
Oh, there's a problem. Let's go. Let's get going. We're going to fix that problem, Daniel. I absolutely love that. Thank you again for being here today.
My pleasure.
There's so much to talk about with episode 3. I mean, obviously, there's been a ton that's gone on. We've had a quit in episode 1 by Hannah. Episode 2, we had Brandon finally put out of his misery from the Lulu tribe. And now we have episode 3, and another member of Lulu has gone away, but not the one that probably a lot of people thought was going to be coming, which was Emily. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I think maybe the best way to kind of attack this is maybe try to go through sequentially kind of how the episode went down. Okay. And one of the first things that occurred in the episode that was pretty significant was at the Bello tribe, you had Jake, this lovely man that's popped up on the screen here. He had a moment where he actually like kind of passed out, had a little bit of a seizure, it looked like, while he was trying to tend to the fire. And that was one of the first time I think of the new era we've really seen that happen. But obviously we've seen it with like scooping back in the day in Australian Outback and stuff. And I guess kind of a question is yourself, who's I'm sure has tended fire at your camp. Like, is that something that like you worry about a lot while you're just blowing all you can at the fire, trying to keep it alive? And if that's something you've seen before, or you felt you're like, all right, I'm getting close to this.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I don't think it's anything anybody ever thinks about. But I do understand how it happened. I mean, you're starving, you're cold, you're beat up, you're tired, and now you're trying to, tend to the fire, and you need the fire to keep warm, to cook, to whatever you need it for, and you're blowing, and you take it in smoke, and you don't realize it, and you kind of like get into a haze, and I guess you get a little smoke inhalation, and you get lightheaded, and you feel like you're gonna pass out. I don't think anybody worries about it because it's not a realistic thing to think that would happen to you, but I can understand how it does happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess when you're sitting on your couch, you're not thinking about the next time you're going to have to tend to fire outside with, all the wood and everything.
Yeah.
So
well, the other
it's
thing
fair.
is when you take in smoke, every orifice of your head is leaking because you're taking in smoke, and which I did experience out there. Your nose starts to run, your eyes start to get watery, you start to get a little coffee, coughing, you're choking a little bit. That does happen, but I've never felt lightheaded. I'm like, oh my God, I got to clean myself up here because you feel like you're a mess.
Any advice? Like if you took in a lot and you thought you were getting to that point, any advice like for fire safety at that point? Like, should you be like, all right, just lay back real quick? Or because Jake in this scene, instead of actually like laying back, he kind of did what I thought would be the opposite. It seemed kind of silly. think of my mic actually muted in that. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to do that. But
No.
anyway, so in that instance, he actually stood up while he was doing it, and I think to try to not be lightheaded, instead did the opposite. He actually
Yes.
just probably fell over because of that. So any fire safety instances that are probably the smarter thing to do if you're out there and that hits you.
Take yourself out of the situation. Get away from the smoke. Whatever's causing the issue, fresh air does wonders. You get it back really quick, and that's what happened. He wound up getting fresh air, and he felt much better. But it looked a
Absolutely.
lot worse than what happened. I thought it was going to be much worse. If he did pass out, he would have landed into the fire, another scooping where he gets burned. And thank God that didn't happen because he's a good player.
Absolutely. And funny enough, kind of going from there, the way at least it was edited, it made it look like Jake, maybe from a relationship building standpoint, possibly kind of parlayed it into having a little bit more of a relationship with Kendra from the tribe. The very freewheeling
Yes,
girl who is doing pretty well in the Bella
I like
tribe.
her too. I think she's doing well.
I think she's awesome, and the fact that Jake, who seemed to be not on, I don't know if he was on the bottom of the Bello tribe, but he certainly felt that way according to the previous episode. It seemed like that kind of parlayed into a little bit of relationship. So, I mean, maybe that even kind of helped him out a little bit, like to gain a little bit of sympathy in the moment,
Well,
kind of caring for one another.
and it could have humanized him. He
Hmm.
showed him being vulnerable, so it opened up a door. And in Survivor, when you're out there, you're looking anything to open up a door to try and get off the bottom. That's what you're really doing. You're always just trying to make relationships. If you're self-aware and you know that you're in a bad position, you're looking for any opening to try and communicate with players that you think you need to get on your side, so that way you can go further in the game. So even if he didn't do it on purpose, obviously he didn't. It definitely opens up a door that he needed, and it was good for Kendra too because she gained another ally because she showed, that she cared. She showed, you know, feelings that, oh my God, are you okay? Which
Oh,
is
absolutely.
which is huge in Survivor.
I think so. I mean, it was an unintentional. Like, it wasn't an emotional manipulation because he didn't try to do it, but I think ultimately, it seems like it's gonna impact sometimes how we view each other, and it does make it a change at times on the and I think, honestly, the person that we've kind of highlighted most as far as whose emotions showing through, I think, has affected how other players have seen them is probably Emily, if I had to guess, because at
Yes,
first seemed to be kind of robotic, but just the teensiest little bit of vulnerability, I think it seemed like it kind of turned around Lulu's kind of impression. But that's honestly a larger conversation. You and I talked for a hot second about how we feel at
yes,
Emily, which overall I think has been pretty positive, at least as a character for sure.
true.
So we'll be able to
And,
flesh that out a little bit, but maybe that's even kind of the next thing to chat about.
right, but even
Um,
with Jake, you gotta remember Jake was kind of a little bit behind the eight ball because he told him he was a lawyer. Lawyers
yeah.
never, we gotta watch him. So that conversation when he went down, and when people think of lawyers, they think of straight corporate and black and white issues. Just everything's black or everything's white. That's it. With Jake with this, it's it kind of humanized him a little bit where he's vulnerable and they saw like he's just not this straight guy. He's a lawyer and I'm in courtroom. He showed that he can just relax a little bit.
Absolutely. And funny you say about that aspect of it where he said he's a lawyer and that it to some degree even kind of affects how people think that um you would deal with him or how he would deal with situations. It actually, like, to kind of move it along to another portion of Bello, Katura. She's the woman that is basically right now, she does not really like the vibe Bruce is putting out on the
So
tribe. And
funny, isn't it?
it's so funny because it's like I love a good one-sided rivalry. Bruce has no idea. He's sitting there doing the robot on the beach, and Katura's like, something about that
Which is
man.
hysterical, by the way.
Oh, it's the greatest. I love what's going on with Brucey. But and the reason why I turn it over is because Katura is also a lawyer and won't tell anyone about it. And I think that's probably smart on her part because no one's looking at her the same way as maybe Jake for the profession. Um, but so I think Katura is doing a lot of things right. But I'm very interested what you feel about the Katura and the Bruce situation. If we know there's going to be a swap, but if there wasn't going to be a swap, do you think that would be something that would be a favorable game move for Katura to actively try to go for Bruce, or should she back off?
No, I think what she should do and what she is doing is she's putting it out there, all the things why you shouldn't like Bruce. And again, like she said, Everybody's eating out of Bruce's hand. Everybody loves Bruce. Oh my God, Bruce could do no wrong.
Mhm.
But I think it's like any relationship. When you first meet somebody and you go, oh my God, that's so cute that they do that with their hair. And then, but within 3 months, like, oh my God, they're freaking twirling their hair again. It's annoying the crap out of me. I think that can happen in Survivor. By day 10, what Bruce is doing becomes annoying, and she can use that to exploit him. So it's good that she's recognizing it early, and she can plan that out in case that happens. Again, there's a lot of people on Survivor when they first on, you think it's really cool what they're doing. Oh my God, that's so cute, how great they're. And then, by day 15, I can't take this anymore. I can't take it anymore.
I mean, that's fair because there's people I love. Like I've said, I have my best friend, but I said, listen, I can never live with you. It would drive me nuts in the end. What you do in a short amount of time, I love, huge fan. But if I had to be with you
Right.
long term, I'd say I'd want to
Right.
fight
Same
you.
thing with the fires. I have guys that I can stay with for 24 hours, but if I had to stay with them every day, I would lose my mind because they drive you crazy. It's really funny and it's cute and they don't stop. And then all of a sudden, you're like, I can't do this every day with them. And I think the same thing happens with Survivor. So it's good that she recognizes that and she's kind of exploited a little bit. And all those people that think, Bruce is cute by saying, hey, I want to be Uncle Bruce and I want you to do this, but you got to do that. I don't want to be your father. It's really cute because he's Bruce and it's funny and he's doing the robot. When you're hungry and you're tired and you're cold in day 10, it doesn't come off as cute anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I can absolutely imagine that. I mean, it's so tough because then you wonder right away, it's like, why do I not enjoy Bruce in that if I'm Katura? Why do I not enjoy those things when everyone else seems to for the most part? I mean, sometimes that's just how it breaks down, I think. But I'm surprised, like from a strategic standpoint, I'm wondering if you're Katura, you all haven't had to go to tribal council. As far as you know, Bruce hasn't highlighted you as a vote. Why would you even go out of your way to try to plant these seeds to get rid of Bruce when you don't know there's a swap coming? Bruce is
Right.
probably your strongest physical person in the challenges. Why would you actively try to be getting rid of him when it sounds like he would be a good person to have out front and other people take a shot at?
I totally agree. I think Bruce is the perfect guy to have as your shield. He takes away the spotlight of you
Mhm.
doing something or saying something. When I was on, I always loved the guy who wanted everybody to know who he was, and you just lay low. Again, Bruce is putting a big target on himself, not because he was on 44, but because, like you said, he's doing all the funny things. I don't know
Mhm.
why she's doing that. Um, Maybe she hasn't thought it through, but maybe she has a grand scheme that she has going in her head. We don't know. So
Mhm.
I think the way I would play it, it would annoy me if it did, and I wouldn't say anything. I would just keep it low key and just save all of those bullets for when I feel the tide start to turn, and then I start throwing, giving them more bullets to shoot because now I can give you all the ammunition because I got it all built up in my head. Somebody says, that Bruce kind of annoys me, and you go, yeah. What about when he did this? And they go, oh yeah. And then somebody, you know what? I didn't like that either. You start reminding them all these things. That's the better way to play it.
I would agree with that. I'm wondering if for Katara, the reason why she's not being like incredibly out front. So I don't want to mislead the conversation
Yeah.
by saying that she's aggressively going at it. I wouldn't say so. I
Right.
think she said what she's trying to do is she's trying to when she hears anything negative, she's trying to highlight and amplify those thoughts among other people, which is probably a solid low key strategy, but she's still very intentional. And I'm wondering if the reason why she feels a little more comfortable is because she feels comfortable with the other girls on the tribe and maybe even Brando,
Right.
in the idea that she feels like she's probably in the majority and she can kind of think about who the prey is going to be, right? Without her really knowing, it looks like that maybe that there's other people who are catching on to what she wants and not totally agreeing with it. And if I'm recalling properly, it's really about Brando and Kelly. Looks like they have kind of their own secret little thing going on right
Right.
now where Kelly's like, listen, I can clearly tell that Katura wants this, but I'm not sure if this is the way to go. And I almost really want Bello to go to tribal council just so that I can see how the chips fall.
I agree.
We talked about this for a hot second. I mean, all of it's talk until you cast your vote, right? Would you think that's fair to say?
100%. It gets real when you have to put somebody's name on the parchment because now you're not only deciding who you want, but you're also letting everybody else know where your chips are.
Mhm. So I
and you
think
know,
the
like
more
who's
you
got.
can avoid that, it seems like really the way to go. And they're thankfully they're winning, but as a fan, I want to see the chips fall, Mike.
I do too, and that's listen. This upcoming episode, we got a merge coming. I think things are going to get very interesting.
Oh, we got a swap coming. Little
That's what I meant.
swap coming up.
I said merge. I meant the swap.
It's all good. I mean, no, absolutely. We got the swap coming in. I don't know who's on which tribe. I think some spoilers have
Yeah,
who's
I kind of
where.
didn't look at that, but I think
I
they
didn't
kind of
either.
gave a little bit away. But I try not to know anything until the episode. I like being surprised.
Me too, honestly. If I looked at spoilers, my fantasy picks would probably be doing a little bit better. Two of my three players are already gone.
Oh,
I
wait a minute, really? Already?
Yeah, I chose Hannah. She quit, so great. Um, and I chose Sabaya, as well. But I will say, because I did a fantasy draft with Lindsay Carmine from Survivor 43 and Owen Knight from Survivor 43. And right now I'm in last place, probably. I say probably because it's part of it's based on how well you do. So, like, if I don't know, let's just say, for example, I chose Austin as my first pick, who I think is doing really well in the game.
I did too.
I mean, people are just giving him hammers so he can find idols. So I think he's doing
It's
just
so
fine.
crazy what's going on with that.
I I can't believe that, and that's going to be our next topic. We're going to talk about that and Reba. But like, if he makes it to the very end, he wins. He's worth 18 points just for winning.
Okay, so you
So like, I have to kind of see how it go. Like right now, a higher score is bad this early on because that means like I got 1 point for Hannah and three for
right.
Sabaya. So I'm in the lead, but not really. It's like golf rules.
Yes,
Yeah. So we'll see how it shakes out. But Owen's lost nobody so far, and Lindsay only lost one, and I'm not doing well. But the positive is two of my players have found idols, and that's huge. Sabaya got an idol, so I got some points there, and Austin has the idol, so I got some points there.
gotcha.
So if I had spoilers, this would have worked out a little bit better. We'll see. I'm a train wreck at this moment. But I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening with Bello, and I cannot wait for the trigger to be pulled with Kelly and Brando. But with the swap coming, I don't really know what to
Yeah,
expect.
we
Maybe
don't
it'll
know
be
who's
split
with who
up.
anymore. We don't know who's with who.
What if Brute like what would be the I mean, this is a loaded question, but I'll say this and hear your perspective. I like if the Survivor gods have anything for me that's really positive. I would love to see the swap happen and Katura and Bruce still be put on the same tribe.
Of course, that's exactly what we want because we want to see how long that can go without some type of explanation. Because Bruce is oblivious that she feels that way. He's oblivious. He doesn't realize, like he's just going along doing his robot and everything. And she's like, he is so annoying. He is dry. How does people like? And you know what? We want to see the payoff. The payoff
Yeah,
is either he finds out or she explodes. Either one is great TV.
100%. And like because it'll be a new situation, she doesn't have the girls to rest on in this scenario. She would probably have to be a lot more aggressive other than just like highlighting and amplifying other people's comments. Instead, if they have to go to tribal and they are on the same tribe and these are new people, she's going to have to be pretty forthright with it. And I don't know I mean, I guess it depends how much tribes really want to get rid of a strong player like Bruce. They're probably going to dime her out if she tries to do that. But that's where
Right.
she's
But
probably got to switch it up.
well, she's also got to play it smarter. If it's her and Bruce and in a tribe swap, she's got to. He doesn't realize that she doesn't like him, so
Mhm.
she's got to play it where they stay together because they need numbers. Because if she
Absolutely.
helps to vote Bruce out, she's losing one of Bella. She loses an ally. Because as far as he's concerned, they're allies. And
Mhm.
in a tribe swap, when you have new people in your tribe, you want to keep the people that are in your tribe as long as you can around, mainly because you need the votes and play the loyalty card. We got to be loyal to each other. Stick together.
Absolutely. And, I think Sandra made a quote about this a long time ago on, I think, Heroes versus Villains or something. Or no, it was Game Changers, I think it was. I don't know. But anyway, she said something about like, original tribes. She's like, listen, what it comes down to is who you were with. That's all that matters. It's like we
That's
all know it at the base level. Who you were with is where it all begins. I think she's right. Like, even if you weren't totally on the same page, you all have that bond right away.
I
And you
agree.
assume you're probably going to be together and you just have to not bungle it.
Well, I think it's Boston Rob. Didn't he say, "You really want to know who's together? Look where people sleep."
Yeah.
And he's 100% right.
You think
Look
so?
where people, yes,
Well,
people,
like, can
some
you
of the
speak to
best
like your dynamic?
conversations. Yeah, yeah, it was. And I think back on it. Um, the best time to talk is when you're laying in the shelter and you're staring somebody from 2 inches away and you're whispering to them
Mhm.
and you're talking and you're making plans. You can't do that if you're not sleeping together.
Well, okay. So, I mean, that to me, that makes perfect sense. So I'm kind of curious, like, I'm curious, could you give an example, like, let's just say, I don't know, like at Kula Kula, we'll say, right? During your time there. Like, what did the kind of shelter dynamics, as much as you can remember, kind
Okay,
of
here's
look
what I'll
like
say.
to
Here's the
speak to your
biggest one
point?
that here's a big one that saved my game at the time.
Mhm.
So if you remember the episode where Omer told me that Dreyer was going to come after me with the knowledge is power.
Mhm.
He was going to take it off me because but meanwhile, we didn't see 41, so I'd never heard of a knowledge of power. Nobody did. So I didn't believe him. I literally
Mhm.
said, does Omer think I'm really going to give him my idol on this cockamamie advantage that Drea got at council? No way am I going to do that. So Jonathan, Jonathan was my ally. He's laying right next to me. I whispered to him, "Can you believe Omar?" And he looks at me, goes, "Give it to him." I go, "What? I can't give it to him. He's gonna freaking keep it." He goes, "He's not lying to you." And that's when he told me that Omar knew about it, and he told me that Omar wanted that would give it back to me because he wanted to play his idol nullifier against me at Final Five to make a big splash for the jury. And that's why it was
Mhm.
okay to give it to him. A perfect
Mhm.
example. If I'm not laying with Jonathan right there, and you got to remember the new era, the game is fast. You don't have time to, there's no days off where you sit around, you're trying to talk strategy with people. It's whenever you got a moment, you either take it or you lose it because everything is fast.
Mhm.
So when Jonathan told me that, I'm laying there with him. I wake up the next morning, but I contemplated all night, and I remember pulling Jonathan to the side real quick. I go, Jonathan, I need you to look me in the eyes. This is real, right? I go, would you told me? He goes, 100%, Mike. And that's when I gave Omar my idol. Because I knew then two things. Omar wasn't on my side. I knew I can give him the idol because he was going to give it back to me. And I knew that Drea also did have this thing called the knowledge of power. And that's what you saw happen through the season.
Mm.
But that literally was right before Tribal.
Oh,
And it
wow. Okay.
and it
That's
only
huge. Yeah.
happened because right, it only happened because we were laying next to each other.
Oh, wow. That is huge. Okay.
Right. You
Well,
talk in
then
two places, laying in the shelter or at the water well. That's it.
those 2 are the most prominent spots that I guess you would typically see. Although we don't see a lot of, like, sleeping arrangements on TV anymore. That's kinda more of an old school thing.
Yeah.
But so, like, so just as a quick thing before we move on to talking about immunity idol stuff, now that you're talking about immunity, is so, like, in that situation, like, typically, where did you sleep? Were the other alliances, like, sleeping in different spots than you were with Jonathan at that point?
You don't play it off like I need to sleep with Jonathan. You play it off for other reasons. It's a social game. At the end of the day, I learned the biggest thing I learned there, it's social. If people like you and you make them laugh, they want you around because they're so miserable, any kind of comfort. So I was always trying to, you know, quite frankly, just do stuff for people. People that were tired, I would go get them, sleeping stuff. We gave them the shelter. No, you guys take the shelter so the rain doesn't hit you. But you watch people that work together, no matter what, even in life, they gravitate to each other. Me
Mhm.
and Jonathan gravitated to each other once we became friends out there. Same thing with, you know, Omar and Lindsay. They gravitated to. Omar was in my alliance. It was me, him, and Lindsay at one point. We gravitated to each other, and you see it. Romeo and Marianne. They worked as the underdogs. They gravitated. They talked all the time. They laid together. They sat. That's
Mhm.
that's just natural instincts. As much as
Absolutely.
you say we got to stay away from each other, you always wind up seeing who's close to each other all the time.
Absolutely. It all comes out in the wash in the end, right?
All it does.
Yeah.
It's very hard
Awesome.
to stay away from people that you trust out there because there's very few
Mhm.
people you can trust.
That's true. And I mean, it's so, it seems like it's obviously it's a total 360 part of your life for that period of time. So you can't help but I think probably be closer to people you're actually aligned with, like physically, versus the people that are actively trying to take you out or against
Right.
you. And if you
And
can
no
do
matter
it, you're good.
And Kev, no matter what anybody says, there is a level of paranoia out there, no matter what. Because the truth is, it's the only place you're going where you have to trust 17 people, and you can't trust 17 people.
Yeah,
So even as close as me and Jonathan, I know Jonathan like 15 days, and I'm depending on him. He's depending on me. But the truth is, we only know each other 15 days,
yeah,
and we're trying to trust each other. And there was a level, that I looked at Jonathan and I believed him. But it's a feeling. It's a feeling, and you could be wrong, but you got to take a shot somewhere. You got to take a shot.
absolutely. And it's whatever relationships you build on, you hope that you're right, but sometimes it falls apart.
Yes.
Um, Speaking of, okay, we were talking about idol stuff for a little bit. It got
Yes.
really exciting actually at the Reba camp, because Austin, he had found the Beware Advantage, which was going to lead him to a hidden immunity idol. You know a thing or two about at finding an idol at camp,
Yes.
and this one seems to be it was very cockamamie. All right, so not only did Austin have the unfortunate task of trying to line up the text on his flag, which I thought was a cool mechanic.
I thought that was a
Um,
great mechanic.
yeah, it was really cool, because I have to admit, I didn't really like, unfortunately, I didn't like your catchphrases that they
I
made you
hated it.
say.
I
Was
hated
that
it.
there's such grace in the game of soccer? Is that what it was?
Yeah, and I caught a lot of slack because they said soccer wasn't a sport.
No, not actually. Funny enough, one of my I work at universities, and the previous university I worked at, funny enough, one of the people who just became an RA, he said he played football for you. Um,
Ah,
yeah, I hate to
what's
say it.
his name? Michael
I hate to
Pullen?
say it. I'm trying to remember his name. I think it was like Gino something. Um,
Oh, Gino.
Offhand.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he was. I mean,
Him and his
he's.
brother Danny played for me.
Oh, okay.
Jackalona? Jackalona?
So- yes, it was a very long name that I could not say.
Yes, nice
Um,
Italian name.
Really nice guy, and funny enough, I remember I mentioned during like a training, I was like, "Hey, I'm a Survivor. I'm a Survivor fan." He's like, "Hey, actually, I played for the guy Mike who just got to the finals." I was like,
Oh,
"Get the heck
yeah.
out of here!" Funny, goofy fact. Anyway,
Yes.
yeah, the so I know football is more up your alley and not necessarily soccer. Not
Yes.
mine either, to be fair. I didn't like that mechanic a whole lot because I just thought it felt very representative of how goofy the rule changes were. But thankfully, I think it's been reined in a little bit, and I like this new twist that Austin had to do. And then this whole thing where Drew and Austin are pulled in, and they're trying to. You get like this guy who's like 6'8" to go dig for an idol, and
Oh,
gets caught because Austin wasn't paying attention. I guess he was like faking looking for stuff, which meant he left his
yes.
post. And then D and
Yes.
Mama J ran up on him and caught him. So then they had to include D and Mama J into the idol search. And what blew my mind was I was like, by the end, I was like, D is going to get an idol at the end of all this. And
Yes.
I was like, what an incredible botch. And then somehow Mama J gave the hammer to Austin.
What was she thinking there?
Yeah. What was he thinking?
I never find it.
How could you give that
I would
up?
have been like, nope. Didn't find the rope. Didn't find the hammer. Didn't find anything. It's crazy. We can't find this idol.
Absolutely. It's like,
But
wow, it's
listen,
so weird. We were looking
listen.
for so long,
I
couldn't
also
find it.
I get it because you're out there. Sometimes you don't think as clearly. Listen, I got a lot of criticism because I told Daniel about my idol. Then I told Jenny, and then Daniel went and told Chanel. So I think here's what I think it is. I think when you have you have 3 tribes of 6 people. Your vote is so important that if you lose it and you don't tell anybody, especially the people that are your allies, and it comes up at tribal council that you don't have it for some reason, you lose trust with everyone. You automatically go to the bottom. Nobody can trust you. So you have to tell the people, I guess, that you're online. It's just in this case, he tells Drew, who's not watching, and all of a sudden, like you said, people walk upon him like, what are you guys doing? And now everybody knows about the idol.
And it's like it's terribly fascinating for me because I mean, in a way, it could be a good thing in that they were already a 4 at that point, but it kind of reaffirms the 4. But I think really the biggest thing was that D and Mama J had the opportunity to make a really strong 2 within the 4. Because like Drew and Austin, if they can't find it, they're going to be even more desperate to
I
stick
agree.
with D and Mama J, right?
I agree. Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
because they're like, okay, we don't have the idol to hold to lay back on at this point, so
Right.
we need to make sure we have these 2 votes of D and Mama J.
Yes.
But like Mama J, maybe she wasn't even thinking. Maybe she's even I don't know, but maybe she's even being a little naive, thinking that this 4 really is a 4 that's going to last forever. I don't know, but
It never
this
does.
it never. No, I
It
mean
never does.
it's all changing. It's like if you're
And,
playing
but you know what?
solos at Catan, it's
You
you're
you
gonna make
want to, but you
differences.
want to believe it. That's what it is. She wants to believe that.
Hmm.
When you're out there, you want to believe. When I made the alliance with Omer and Lindsay, I believed that that was going to be our alliance. I really did. But then you
Really?
realize, yeah, I would have went to the end with them. But here's the thing: is, and again, everything means something. When Omer saw me talking to Jonathan all the time, even though I had no alliance with Giants, just other than us being bros, there was no alliance. I would look out for him. Final five, you're on your own. I'm on my own. I was, but Omer perceived that I was with Jonathan, even though I said I wasn't. He thought that, and that's the reason why he was nervous about me. He thought that I was going to turn on them, but I really wasn't. I was going to go to the end with Lindsay and Omer. So your perception out there is that this is the way it's going to be, and sometimes it's not. It really isn't.
Yeah, I mean they would say perception is reality, right?
Yes,
I mean, it's tough because you're like, why you spend so much time together in a game where you're just trying to move forward all the time? You like could have been genuinely just broing out with Jonathan, which I think you were. I mean, I
we
to
were.
this
We had
day I
great.
see that you're friends, so it's
Yeah,
obvious. But I mean, I have to admit, if I was in that spot, I can't say that I wouldn't look upon you two and think like could be something going on. And I think that kind of fell this way for some of the people on the Reba tribe,
yes,
where Drew and Austin, they've got to they're probably making it very obvious now at this point
I
that
agree.
they're linked, right? And thankfully, I mean, not thankfully for them because it looks like they're in total control. This foursome of the Reba tribe, because really it benefits everyone right now in that four. Now, long term, like you said, it's going to fall apart probably. But
We hope, right?
this, yeah, I mean, honestly, and one of the discussions here is future because well, first let me just wrap up by saying, in case anyone like kind of missed it, Austin does have the idol. It is now official. Like they found it, they cut the rope, the hammer, smashed the stone. He got the idol. It is now his. But the new mechanics of the idol, the way that goes, which is very interesting, is
I
that
hate it.
it's good for one tribal. Did you say you hate it?
I hate it.
Why do you hate it? Like as a player, if it were
As
the
a
idol
play,
you
well,
found.
from being a person that first of all, listen, you you find a beware advantage. You're already going to sacrifice to try and get the idol. You got to either without a vote. It's a lot. Then you finally get the idol, and then you open up, and now it's saying it's only good for your next tribal,
Yeah,
right?
only one.
To me, an idol, it should be good until five, no matter what. And I know that makes it. And then even if you do, okay, so take a chance, go another one without a vote, and we'll let you have it to merge,
Hmm.
right? Is that to merge? Then you lose it
Yeah,
again,
so all players are on the same beach.
man. To me, if you get an idol, it should be your security blanket. It's so warm sleeping at night when you have an idol. It's like the best blanket you ever had. So when they say you go, like I said, you have to find it. You have to figure out how to get it. Then when you finally get it and you take the chance, you can go, three turns without a vote. Which I think I went three. I went four cycles without a vote. It's
Yeah,
harrowing. It's harrowing. And then you get it and say, oh, it's only good for your next tribal. It's like all that work for just an idol, and I might not even need it. You might not
yeah,
even nobody might need it. So my point is now
absolutely.
you're forced to use something that you work so hard to get. I don't think the reward at that point is as good as what you went through to get it. That's the only thing. I think you should get an idol. In my opinion, you should have an idol, and it's your idol. But I understand. Listen, makes the game interesting. You got to make decisions. Look what happened to what's the what's the name?
Sabaya.
Yeah, look what happened to Sabaya this week.
Yeah,
She,
if she just had a, I mean, she didn't risk her, or she risked, no, wait. She risked her vote just so that she could move forward. And honestly, that would have made it a tie, and she at
yes,
least would have had a shot to stick around. But because she risked her vote just to extend the life of the idol, it became a 2-1 vote, and she was gone. So
yep.
I think that's a perfect example. And it's funny. First of all, I like to say this is pretty funny just hearing you talk about it as someone who's found an idol in the new era. It's you're talking of almost as like you played in like season 20. You're like, well, back in my day, the
Is that
idols,
crazy?
it was not very long ago. It's
No,
three
it feels
seasons.
like it was a long time ago, but you're right, not that long.
Yeah, it's so funny because but it also speaks to the evolution of the game
Yeah,
and how Probst, and I say Probst whenever I mean Probst and all of production,
right.
tinkers with the game mechanics. And I don't know if I like it or not yet. because what it seems like the goal is they want to make sure that idols get played, because last season they really didn't get played very much.
That's a
And
good point.
and season 43, Jesse blew all the idols basically in the last like two tribal councils, but otherwise they didn't get played again. So I think that's the number one thing. It's like, you and I are football guys, and we're baseball guys. They make rule changes that maybe are not part of the classic game, but ultimately the people who are running it know that we need to speed this up. Otherwise, maybe the attention's going like
That's actually a very good point.
you know how it is, like
Yeah.
defenses in the
And
NFL.
listen,
They have so many limitations because they want the long ball to go, because it's
right,
fun to watch the long ball,
right.
and I
Meanwhile,
think it's the
people are
same way with idols.
holding their timeouts till the end of the fourth quarter, and they're not using them. I get it, and you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And quite frankly, when I had my idol, it made me ballsier out there because I knew I
Mhm.
had it. It made me take. I liked it because, and I didn't even care that people knew it because, oh yeah, I'll play my idol. If I even get an inkling, I'm going to play my idol. So it made me even take chances in terms of who I spoke to, what chance I took in playing the game, because I knew, hey, if I screw this up, I'll play my idol. Screw that. But meanwhile, obviously, I didn't know about the knowledge is power, stuff like that.
Yeah,
But it still made me play a much more adventurous game for myself, as opposed to took a lot more chances than I normally would take if I didn't have the idol. I would have played much more securely, making sure I had a tight alliance, and as opposed to like, they should be lucky they have me because I have an idol. I can freaking protect us.
exactly.
Makes you play
And
a
that's
different
what
game.
And honestly, that's why I was a huge fan of your game going into the final travel, because I was like, well, I think he has kind of bounced around a little bit at different times. Maybe it's because of the idol, but it's everyone's known it as the idol, and they haven't figured out a way to get it out of him. So I think honestly, the moves he's made with it is done pretty well. And so I'm glad that you felt like a little warmer at night while you were sleeping with
I
that
was
thing,
very
because
warm
that's a
with that
huge
blanket.
blanket.
And
And these people don't have that advantage, it looks like,
no,
unless they risk their vote twice.
I agree. I agree.
That's
Which, as a player, I hate it because if I get the idol, I want it. I want to hold it. I want to know that I have it till 5, and I can use it any way I want, whether I give it to somebody or not. And quite frankly, I never even use it on myself. I gave it to Marianne. So
yeah.
here's one thing I knew I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to go home with it in my pocket. That's the one thing I knew I
Mm.
wasn't going to do.
It's what they say, you would rather go out swinging than watch third strike go
100%.
by. Yeah. And I
100%.
completely agree with that strategy. I understand why people could leave with it in their pocket, a sense of security, but it sounds like you never really felt that secure. Like you felt secure because of the idol, not because necessarily no one was going to come after you, like
Yeah,
based on the alliances.
I didn't feel, I listen, everybody knows they're talking about you, but I felt, I, here was my strength in the game was my social game. So I was talking to enough different people in the game where I felt I was getting enough information from different factions and alliances in the game that I understood where I stood in the game at that point.
Hmm.
Like I knew Dre was coming after me at that point.
Hmm.
I knew Omar was going to try and take me out at 5. I knew, and to be fair about this, I learned that early in the game what happened with with Chanel and Daniel turning on us and screwing Jenny over. At that point, I said, "Holy shit, this is real. I'm not. I'm actually playing this too nice." And I now
Hmm.
got to start playing a little more underhanded and devious and play the game harder. It was a slap in the face. Jenny going home, and I've told her this, was a slap in my face to wake the hell up. What are you doing? You're not here for for Sunday school. You got to play the game.
That was a hard lesson to learn in that moment. Because
It
like
was.
during that trouble is when you found out that Chanel risked her vote, even though she lied about it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And things definitely fell apart. I'm glad that happened, because then you had the tool to really play more aggressively, and
Right.
obviously
I
you did. You
immediately
got to
went
live
back
in
to
the
camp. I
finals.
started, I went back to camp, and the best thing that happened to me is High had told me to vote for Lydia. Now I
Mhm.
was voting for Lydia anyway, but I went to High before that trial and said, "Hi, who do you want me to vote for? Because I'm with you, man. We're together on this." And of course, I was playing him, and he goes, "Lydia, we got to vote for Lydia." I said, "Okay, that's you sure?" And so as soon as we got back, I looked at High, and that's why High says in the episode, "Why did he tell me, High? I was with you." And he
Mhm.
said, "The only person I got to talk to is Mike right now," and he apologized to me for telling me that. But meanwhile, that's who I was voting for anyway. He had no idea I was with Jenny. But I had to
No,
play that, and then that's how me and High got together.
that's good. I also a random side note. I loved Ty during your season, so
Yes, High's
that
very good. High was
that's
very
awesome
good.
hearing. He's
High
the
was a very
president
good
of the
player.
Justine Brennan fan club of Survivor
Yes,
43.
yes,
That's what I've learned. But
yes.
No, it's fascinating. And speaking of the other part to the mechanic of the game, or the Reba and immunity idol, that I guess we can kind of delve into a little bit here, is later on in the reward challenge. Lulu actually won a separate reward challenge from an immunity, which was really nice. It warmed my heart to see
Yes.
them win, and it was actually in that moment when you see the celebration of Lulu. That was one of those times where I learned that, again, a lot of this we'll talk a little bit more at length about Emily, but Emily, I get the impression that she's probably not a lot of teams where like she's not in that, like that's probably not her realm. But when they won, the excitement that came out of Emily in particular for being a part of a winning tribe for the first
So good.
time, it warmed my heart because it was so
Yeah.
genuine,
I
and I was
agree. I
happy
like
for
Emily a
everybody.
lot. I like Emily a lot.
She's
It's,
great, and
she's
she
great.
had, I mean, you can see, like, a banner from, the first, episode recap I did with, Mike Gabler of 43, and the banner is "Worst beginning of all time."
I'm not sure if that's the case. However,
Oh, yes, it is.
it was
Come
a rough.
on,
Listen,
Mike.
I've seen some. Listen, what was his name? God, Blood versus World War. I can't remember his
Oh.
name.
Oh, Colton?
Colton. Colton has the worst beginning. And even as much as I love Agent Philip, his first episode of his first season when he spilled the beans on his whole tribe. Remember that?
Francesca.
Yeah, Francis.
I will always laugh to this day. He's like, at Tribal, he had said her name wrong, like, twice already by this
How
point, and she
hysterical
had
is that?
corrected him
Another great
twice.
character on Survivor.
And then he
But
goes,
listen,
"Yeah, down here with
I think she
Francesca."
had a
She's like,
rough beginning.
"Francesca."
Right. I think she had a rough beginning. The word, I don't know if it's the word. I've seen there's some people I thought were worse, but listen,
It was
I
so
get
bad, Mike.
it. You know what? Maybe because I like her, I don't want to give it a worse beginning of
I
all.
love Emily.
But she's
She is who I am number one rooting for. Well,
yeah.
1, 2 rooting for with Austin, but
Okay.
she has been the surprise of the century for me, and I want her to go as far as possible.
Me too.
But she right away, they're like, "Yeah, Bruce to come back." He's like, "I'm happy to just be here." She's like, "Let me push back on that real quick."
I know. What was she
Why?
thinking? What was she thinking?
It,
Someday
you
I'm going
know,
to ask her, what were you thinking when you said that? I listen. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. I've always learned
yeah.
that. So stay quiet. Hand it to everybody. Oh my God, yeah, Bruce, I'm so happy to have you back. Oh my God, thank God you're with us. You're gonna be great here. Well, I can't believe we're gonna be friends. Hand
And
it.
she's
Let
like,
them.
hold up on that, Jeff. Actually, and there's no reason for it. But again, I love
He's
Emily.
already trying to give us advice.
I think she's doing so well at this point. Like her flipping on Sabaya was an awesome idea to go with Caleb. So she's made a ton of progress. And I think now that she's made it past the first few votes, she's probably going to go pretty far
I hope
because
so.
what a great ally to have. Like someone who is almost incapable of lying and will just
Yes.
say whatever's to the coming straightforward logically. That's who I want. I want like Caleb and her are actually a great alliance partners because he's like the exact opposite. He'll say
By the
anything
way,
to anyone.
that was Roxroy on our season.
Oh yeah,
Roxroy was straight. He was a straight arrow. If he told you something, that's the way it was. That's why I loved Roxroy in our season. I loved being out
absolutely.
there with him. And if he said, "This is the way I'm going," you weren't changing his mind. He was
Yeah,
good like that. Yeah, he was a good
Rox
guy.
was good for that. I feel like on the Ika tribe, right? I'm getting that right, Ika tribe. I feel like when they talked about Rox, they would talk about him as more like it was a task to try to convince him to do anything because he kind of is that way. Like what he
Yeah,
believes is what he believes. Um,
100%.
and that's it. And I love and respect that about him, truthfully. And I think
Yes,
Roxroy is a guy I wish I saw kind of out there more, like in the fan community. But I think that's also Rox, right?
yes.
So like I don't think he would. Yeah, I don't think he would do that. So
He's
that's
off
also
the
what makes
grid.
me love him.
Rox is off the grid.
Mm.
No social media, no nothing.
That's what makes him so cool in a way
It's
because he
very
was kind of
cool.
off the grid, even out there with you all going like, yeah, I'm good with going to Exile Island or whatever they call it,
Yeah, yeah.
for the
Oh my God, he's
hourglass.
so funny. And listen, his name alone, Roxroy. Can't.
Great name,
It's iconic.
Roxroy rocks.
Yes,
Anyway, diving back to the
yes,
goodwill advantage. So they won, which is great. And I mean, so I'll recap it and then I'll ask you a
yeah.
question because I'm really curious what you think. They win. Part of it is they get to have a camp raid. They get to send somebody from the Lulu tribe over to any of the other two tribes to take an item. And who they end up electing to be the person to go is Caleb. And I found this kind of intriguing because immediately right after Caleb got to the Reba tribe, which is the tribe they ended up choosing to raid from, you see a cut to Sean, Sabaya, and Emily eating the fruit that they just won, and Sabaya pretty immediately going like, we can't have Caleb around. Caleb's too much of a smooth talker. I don't want him at the end. You see how good he is. My question to you, Mike, is it why would, considering all of what Sabaya had just said, why would they elect Caleb to be the one to go and form bonds with one of the other two tribes?
Because he asked to go.
You think so?
Yeah. Here's the thing: is once he asked to go, you may not like that he asked, and I wouldn't have wanted him to go if I was on that tribe. But once he asked to go, you either going to say, "Okay, great, Caleb, I'm glad you want to go," or you say, "Nah, nah, 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 nah." It's already now. You if you're on that, you're with that tribe. In Lulu, he was one of the leaders. So if you go against him and say, "No, no, why are you going?" You create that little, and you didn't want to get on his bad side because you knew that he was one of the leaders of the tribe. One thing is, even with us, who wants to go to Shipwell Island? Oh, I'll go. We were like, okay, go ahead, no problem. Even if I was against it, I wouldn't have said nothing, mainly because I didn't want to cause that kind of rift with that person, because everybody takes something personally when you're out there. So if you say, why you, Caleb? Why do you have to go? Now it becomes that kind of thing. If you remember, he said, hey, if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to go. What are you going to say to him? No?
It's true. That is drawing a line in the sand in a
Yes.
way.
He's telling you
You go
want to
like,
go. Now you say, no, I want to go. Now, okay, now you created the rift, and you're also creating an atmosphere where the rest of your tribe has to make a choice who should go.
mm-mm. So then is that really the key? Like, if you want to go do any advantage or go jump on one of these opportunities, assuming you're not the very bottom person, if you just jump in first and say, I want to go, is that like the key that you just do that and probably people aren't going to fight with you too hard?
They're not, but they're going to remember it. I know I would, and I would use
Mm-hmm.
that. I would use that as a springboard against somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like, do you really think? Why do you think they wanted to go? They want to go because they want to find an advantage. Why did they wanted to go? They want to have an edge up on us. Do you really think they're telling us the truth? You remember back when you even two tribals down the line say, remember when Caleb went on that? What did he really learn out there? Why did he go out there? Do you think he had caught an advantage? All you need to do is put thoughts in people's head, make them think. It's a good weapon as a player. So yeah, let them go. But you're also putting a target on your back. Anybody in this era that goes on any of these trips, any of these excursions, any of these journeys, you are definitely putting a target on your back.
Absolutely. Because
It
I
can be
guess
against you.
if you're staying back, you go like, okay, well, like Sabai, for example, if Sabai and Caleb thought they were pretty tight, Sabai right away could see like, why does he need to benefit so much from this? He's already got me in the majority.
Yes.
Like that's something I would think in that moment. Now, as a fan who is looking at Lulu as a whole tribe, immediately my response as a fellow Emily lover, I was like, how funny would it be to send Emily to one of these tribes and have her take something from them? Like,
It
because
would be hysterical.
she'd probably be matter of fact about it. She's like, yeah, I'm taking this. It's like, 'cause if you're Sabai and Caleb, who I assume kind of were in charge, let's just say the other three, other than Emily, send Emily. What are the chances in that short period of time she's going to build a really strong bond with somebody? Probably slim.
Probably slim. But
Probably
that's
slim.
also why it puts a target on Caleb's back, because they know he's social. He's a very good speaker. He's very you want to be his friend. When he talks, you want to be his friend. I get that feeling just watching him on TV. He's very smart. He knows the game. So immediately when he goes over there, and quite frankly, if he walked into my tribe and I saw what he was doing, I'll say, he's got to go quick. If he makes it to the merge, we got to take him out. He's a good player. He's playing hard. Especially when he
Yeah.
took them away each separately. To speak of, we know why he did that, because he wanted to see who he can give the advantage to. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't know that's what he's doing, you're thinking he's trying to work you and work everybody individually. That's playing very hard. And it's
Absolutely.
easy to paint a target on somebody like that back. And I like him a lot. I think he's a very, very good player. But I also think that's why, in my opinion, he probably won't get to the end, because if they don't recognize that and get rid of him, they're all fools.
Totally agreed. I mean, Caleb, honestly, even since his pre-game interviews and the stuff you can read on like Entertainment Weekly, everything oozes that this guy is built to play a purely social game. But the problem is, it's just like we were just saying, it really does ooze it. Like, that this dude is going to be a talker. God forbid he ever made the finals. He
Yes,
would he would just entrance a jury, no problem.
he's
So
very good.
I can see his cap, and I don't know if you agree. Obviously, it shakes out differently. I could see his cap in the game being probably top 5, but I can't imagine him getting past that.
I can't. I did. I
It's
honestly
too
think. Well,
much.
look, he almost won already this week because he's so good.
Yeah.
He
It
almost
does
won.
seem like Reba figured him out, though, pretty
Yeah.
quickly. They were like, "Yeah, we could see he's kind of a smooth talker," and I wonder if
Yes.
it was his decision or other people's. Even, like, what he took from Reba. He's like, "We want your fishing kit, but we'll leave the spear."
Right.
And I thought
You
that
also
was weird.
right. And you got to
Like
remember, going into the merge, the true Lulu tribe is not going to have numbers.
mhm,
So who's ever left in Lulu at that point is going to be like, hey, we'll throw Caleb under the bus, and we'll join whoever else to make a better alliance, because there's no way Caleb should go. He can't get, if he gets to the final. He's the best, one of the best players around, because he is so good, and they should be recognizing that.
exactly. It's so obvious what kind of damage he can do in this kind of game. So that would be impressive. But actually, kind of coming off of or going off of what you just said, I'm wondering if Lulu, especially with the tribe swap, depending on how it shakes out, they won't have numbers. Original Lulu, there's only going to be
None.
3, but at least right now there's only 3. I'm wondering if do you think that there would be potential if somehow they make it through the pre-merge? There could be potential for like a Tika style run, like from 44 with Carolyn, Jam Jam, and Carson, somehow playing that role where both original Bello and Reba are going to be vying for Lulu's votes.
I don't think so.
Mhm,
I just think their personalities are so different that they're not alike. So I think it's going to be tough, because
mhm,
I think sooner or later they're not gonna see eye to eye. And Emily, without a doubt, is going to recognize that Caleb is too tough of a competitor and knows the game too well to say, "Yeah, I want to sit next to Caleb at the end." She's
mhm.
smart. She's very smart. Listen, look what she said about Bruce, and she didn't even really know him when
Yeah.
she was there. What do you think she's gonna say about Caleb when the crap hits the fan and she's got to decide? And
I had to switch it back on here again.
I guess
Sorry.
we're Emily, worst beginning game of all time. Emily, I don't believe that. I think you're great.
I love Emily. Emily's great. It's just, it was a rough start. But as you said, yeah, she probably would call that out. But with Caleb, it's kind of tough because, as we saw, the reason why the vote kind of fell the way it did, and I'm gonna pop this up real quick, is Caleb in episode after the second vote or after the first vote, Caleb kind of took Emily by the hand and said, listen, I got you. I know things are rough right now, but I'm an outlet for you, even while you're in the minority of this
Right.
situation. And that was smart on his part. But I think Emily seems to feel like she owes Caleb something because she could have just gone with the vote and let Caleb go this time. But
Yeah.
instead, she decided she's like, no, I'm going to rock with Caleb.
Well,
Which I think it could be good for a variety of reasons, and I'm kind of
yeah.
curious of what your take on that
Well,
transpiring was.
I think she saw that um, Sabaya was going to turn on Caleb, and she realized, wait a minute, they're like so tight, and she's going to turn on him. Well, she's definitely going to turn on me. Meanwhile, Caleb has been looking out for me. He's a better alliance, and now I'm almost going to pay back Caleb for him looking out for me. I'm going to look out for him, and we're going to be an alliance. But there's no doubt. First of all, I think Caleb started getting a little too comfortable.
Mhm,
He was playing so good. He thought he was so in charge. I think this is going to wake him up, and
mhm,
maybe realize the game is not as easy as it seems. It's as easy as it's coming to him right now. So Emily, I think what she did was a very smart move. She went from voting out Caleb, and staying with Sabaya, who wouldn't have stayed with her, realizing she will turn. If she turned on Caleb, she's going to turn on me. So she gains favor with Caleb, who now will stay
mhm.
with her. But I also think Emily's going to realize that Caleb is a good player, and if she doesn't get rid of him at some point, he can win the game. And honestly,
Absolutely.
Caleb's going to go after her too.
You're probably, I mean, I would say you're probably definitely right about that. I mean, ultimately, obviously, everyone's got to go.
Yes.
Um, I, I like. There's such high potential for Caleb to be targeted first among everyone else, and I'm wondering if Emily will, when Emily will get to that point, because she's too logical to let that go, even if she likes him. So I'm hoping it's a long time from now because I actually secretly kind of love the partnership between Caleb and Emily because they're just, to me, they seem such different people. But it's really fun to kind of unravel in this
Yes.
situation and kind of rolling back since we talked about Emily and Caleb a bit and some of the dynamics, and we'll kind of wrap up with some like the vote
Okay.
of the episode. But going back to the goodwill advantage, the dynamic, obviously Caleb pulled people separately from the Reba tribe, even though they kind of sniffed him out. Pulling people from another tribe, that gets into dicey territory for the tribe itself. I don't know how you'd feel about people randomly on your team being pulled aside by a stranger.
Not a chance. Nobody. And listen, you won't be that vocal, but you'll be like, "What the hell is going on out here?" It
Is
wouldn't be
that
good.
where, like, once a person leaves, like, let's say, I don't know, just for example, let's say Austin gets pulled and you're sitting there in place of one of these guys, you'd be like, oh, can you believe that? Like, he's
A
just doing it.
hundred.
Like, do you just whisper that really quickly?
Of course, like you're like, "What's going on here? This doesn't bother you?" And even if that's not what you believe, you put that thought in people's heads. What you want to keep is everybody guessing and everybody worrying about everybody else. You don't want anybody to feel that comfortable in anybody else because remember, you don't want people being that tight and believing. So you put little thoughts in their heads. And quite frankly, I did that a lot on my season. I would just mention, like even with Marianne. Marianne thought she was tight with Omar and Lindsay. I said, "Oh, did Omar tell you about the idol nullified?" She goes, "No." And then I said, "Did Lindsay tell you about the immunity idol she has?" No. And that's when Marianne started seeing they're not on my side and
Hmm.
realized that. And that's when she, started saying, "Okay, I'm with you. We got to get Omar out."
Yeah.
You got to
Oh,
put
yeah.
those thoughts in people's head, even if, and sometimes you play it by accident. I remember saying like, "Yeah, well, we got to worry about Lindsay. She has that idol." Mary goes, "What idol?" Go, "Oh, you didn't know. Oh, you didn't know."
Mhm.
Throw
And
those
that's
little thoughts in.
brilliant. That's totally
And then so you
brilliant.
don't look like you're being a jerk with it. Matter of fact, look who's calling me. Daniel's calling me right now.
Daniel Strunk?
Yes, he's calling. I'm gonna.
Go ahead,
What is up,
Daniel.
my brother?
We're just gonna listen to Mike and Daniel talk real quick.
6.5 hours later.
With the goodwill advantage, obviously he was pulling him over, and we've established that you would try to shut that down if he was trying to do it. But it looks like the reason why he was pulling people over, the goodwill advantage, as we can kind of so is that the way it works is the actual advantage that, sorry, my graphic wouldn't pop up here. All right. So it's the opportunity to forge a secret relationship with another player by being able to give them essentially the opportunity to restore a lost vote, which plays into this immunity idol business where you have to give up your vote to extend the life of it, it looks like. So
Right.
we don't know the exact mechanics of this. I don't know if it's like you can only restore the vote if you lost it at like Shipwheel Island, that kind of situation, or if it is something as simple as like sacrificing your vote in order to extend an idol. It looks like you can do it for all of the above, but I'm not sure because the losing of votes is kind of is one of my biggest issues of the new era because there's cores to the game, and the core is your vote is everything because that's your representation in the game. And I respect that in order to get something, you have to give something. But I hate when people give up their votes because that's like you had said before, that's where the line is drawn in the sand. I don't even like the shot in the dark for that reason. I like when people have their voice heard, even if it's futile,
I
right?
agree.
So this is kind of good because it restores it at the same time, but it adds another layer of complication. Now, fortunately, after all the discussion, I don't really understand why, but he gave it to Drew, who is the ally with Austin, and Austin has the idol, and he's probably going to risk his vote. So it kind of created a shockingly great situation for Austin and Drew in this scenario, assuming they stay together. And what, like, I'm kind of curious why you think maybe Caleb would have targeted Drew out of that whole group.
I think it just goes by feeling. I think you get
Mhm,
a feeling. I think that's why he wanted to talk individually with them. He wanted to get a feeling as to where they were at, and they probably talked a little longer than what we saw.
mhm,
Obviously, you can't, you know, edit person. You can't show everything that they talked about. So maybe, you know, on Survivor, so many things are going. How what kind of impression you get from them, and obviously it's the first time he's meeting them physically.
mhm,
So it was probably got a feeling. Maybe he thought Drew was smart. Maybe he thought Drew was innocent. I mean, if you're looking at Drew, you know his glasses are crooked in that picture you're showing right now. Obviously a smart kid, and you think like, you know, let me look at the guy who might need me the most. That you think
mhm.
that he needs you the most, and you say I'm gonna give it to him. Now I got a guy in case we cross lines. This guy right here, I get a feeling that if I do this for him, either I'm helping him, saving him, or doing something that you think he's going to appreciate and will get back to you. The greatest thing is if he does do it and he winds up totally turning it against Caleb and using it against them, then you know Caleb almost cut his own throat. But those are the dynamics.
Absolutely.
But those are the dynamics. So for me, it would be strictly on feeling. What's the
Mm,
feeling? What's the first impression that I felt? Now, to be fair about that, that's why I aligned with Daniel, and you saw how that worked out. I aligned with Daniel
that's
because
true.
my first feeling from him is like, oh, I like this freaking guy. He knows the game. He's smart. He's personable. I just felt, you know, I can hang with him.
You know, and I think that makes a lot of sense because I mean, you only have a limited amount of time. You have to kind of feel. I figure Caleb would probably roll with someone that he thought w- would probably be somewhat easier to manipulate and things could be in the game at least till the merge.
Yeah,
That's what I would imagine his deduction
that's
would
what I would have
be,
thought.
and that's why I assumed he would have given it to like I don't know, probably not D because probably even a short amount of time he can probably pick up that D's pretty sharp.
Yeah,
If you want to go with like stereotypes, I'm sure he probably could have chosen someone like Mama J. But I think even like Sifu, I think he may have
yeah.
even thought about it because that poor guy has been barely been in the show at this point because he
I
just
think that
seems to be
right,
like a fun guy.
right. I think you're thinking to yourself, I got to give it to somebody who's going to be around long enough,
Mm,
who still thinks they can need me, and let me give it to them so I win on both. Because you got to remember, if you're thinking, maybe he's thinking Mama J's not going to be around, maybe he's thinking D's
mhm,
not going to be around, and I give
mhm,
it to him for nothing, they might be gone. They don't know it's going to be a tribe swap. They don't know who's going to be voted out. So he's probably
mhm,
thinking he might be around for a little longer, and he'll be grateful. Look at someone's
mhm.
going to be grateful for you doing it, and you know, it's a feeling like you know, almost like if I do this for them, I think they'll think they owe me at least one.
Yeah, I mean, because really
And
that's what it is. It's a long-term
right,
investment.
right,
And I think Drew's a solid investment in assuming that he'll probably be around to the merge. But I'm surprised he wouldn't have picked up that Drew probably was a little was fairly sharp. But maybe his thought is he's sharp, but he's not sharper than me. And I
yeah.
think that he's
Sometimes
gonna
big mistake in
understand
the
that
game.
I'm a good alliance member. I mean, because that is important. You want someone smart, but not too smart.
Exactly. And you, listen, at the end of the day, you do want somebody smart, but when you're out there playing the game, you think you're playing the best game. The biggest thing I learned was there's 18 games going on out there, and I think my game is the best. At least
Hmm.
you think, and you think my game's the realest. You know, because
Hmm.
you have to believe that, or else you play in doubt. You can't play Survivor doubting. You have to play Survivor, right or wrong, going hard and thinking what you think, or else you're not going to be there.
And that was something that as a fan, it kind of took me to realize for a long time is I think there were some people that could kind of coast at certain points, but in the new era, I just think there's just like no coasting.
No.
Like even Sabaya, I think a lot of people can't blame Sabaya for being voted out because yeah, maybe she looked a little too far ahead by aiming for Caleb. Because she said she doesn't want to sit next to Caleb in the end, and it's only the
Yeah.
third
It
vote.
was early then. It was early.
But at the same time, like you said, I mean, she had kind of been the godfather of the tribe up to this point. She had
May
established
not get another shot either.
no, maybe not, because you can be at the mercy of a larger group in no time, especially with a swap coming.
A hundred
So,
percent.
but they didn't know that, of course.
Right.
Like you just gotta, you gotta go with your instincts and attack. I think pretty much all the
Yeah.
time in the new era, and I think
I
it's
think you got
something
to
you've
take your
done.
shots when they give them to you, and if you don't take them, you can bite you on the butt. And you
Absolutely.
took a shot. I don't know what I would have done if I was her in that situation, but my gut's saying, "Eff it, I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play my idol now. I'm gonna play the idol now, frigate, just in case. It's only good for this. I'm gonna play it now just in case." Because, but then again,
Yeah,
she was confident. But I also see she was confident, and I'm putting myself in that position when I was out there. And quite frankly, I really thought I didn't. There's no way that I didn't think Daniel and Chanel weren't going to be with us, and there's no way I thought Jenny was going home that night.
Mm-hmm. That had to be a rude awakening, and
So
I mean,
what
it's
yeah,
one of my favorite tribal councils to watch back from the new era for sure.
yeah, it was a rough one. I was like,
maybe
I
you don't
remember
feel the
going
same
back,
way.
and that's why I was like, I'm dead. I'm on the bottom. I got to figure this out now.
I felt the same way because on your on the Vati tribe, you're absolutely my favorite to watch, and I'm not just saying that. I told
Thank
you before we started talking, I was very broy with my favorites in 42 in particular. So like you and Jonathan, even through the merge, were my favorites. I loved High. High was awesome, and actually, I was a pretty big fan of Drea because I could see Drea's
I love
game.
Drea. Drea played hard.
Drea played really hard, and I love Drea for
Drea
that.
played hard.
So it worked out, and then eventually I grew to like Omer and stuff. But by the time I liked Omer, he got voted out. So it was like,
Omer played an amazing game.
he did. I
That, by
rewatched
the way, none of us
42,
knew out there. None of us knew.
and that's why it was so amazing. In the end,
None of us knew.
I
Yeah,
I
he was one of those guys like you just talked about. Like, hey, smart guy, not that physical. I'm gonna befriend him, and he's gonna be appreciative of me. Meanwhile, he was playing the game hard. So I
yeah.
give him a lot of props. He
Oh,
fooled me.
On rewatch, like my initial feelings, I keep them from when I first watched the season. But on rewatch, Omar played an amazing game.
Yes, he did.
Same thing. Like watching through, there's some other games I respect a little bit more. Like at first, I didn't see like Marianne's win, and then watching it again, I'm like, okay, well, like she played a very survival game for a lot of the game,
Right.
and then ended up, ultimately winning in the end, of course. But Lindsay, what a monster,
She's a
Anyway,
monster.
without recapping your whole season, I
Yeah.
guess there were at that point I was a favorite. You were a favorite of mine, and I thought your game was cooked. But you had an idol, so I was like, it could work out eventually. So it worked out fine. But with Sabaya, I mean, I guess bringing it back, and we might as well actually start to round it out. Survivor, the immunity challenge. Spoiler alert: they lost. Lulu, they didn't win, which is pretty typical for that tribe. It was actually a really fun immunity challenge in a way, and this lets you know how well Survivor's doing as far as production. It's very rare that we see a team like instead of having triumphant music of challenge like teams winning, it was actually sad music that Lulu lost.
Yeah.
Which the way I interpreted that is, well, other than they're trying to be a little more cinematic with how they do those things from a storytelling standpoint, what Survivor I think is telling us is Lulu is the main character.
Yes.
This is what I'm hearing from everything that's happened at this point. We don't want to highlight the two that won, which is supposed to be what happens. Instead, Lulu is the one we're paying attention to, and if they lose, it's going to be sad for everyone. If they win, it's going to be happy for everyone, and it's all
Yes.
based around Lulu.
And I think Jeff talked about that. I think Jeff talked about it. It was easy for him to talk to send the story around the two tribes that are winning, but he thought it was much more interesting to send it around Lulu, who was losing, and they had this dynamic going on. And I agree. I thought it was a great way to show much more interesting. And quite frankly, Lulu was a fun tribe. They're fun.
Do you
in
think
every way.
Do you think they were the disaster tribe? Like production just threw it together and said, "This is probably going to be kind of a train wreck."
No,
And I want to see how it goes.
I don't think. In my opinion, I don't think production thinks that way. I think they'd rather see, each tribe lose somebody, and it's competition. They're going to, and yet there's a lot of characters. I don't think it's fun for them to see a tribe get decimated. However, we see it more often than not. But I don't think
do.
I definitely don't think that's what they mean. They want to happen.
And typically I would agree with you. But to be fair though, this happens every season. There's like one tribe that seems a little more overpowered than maybe the other two. So like, looking back, we'll use your season as an example. I think Taku clearly looked like just by having Jonathan, honestly.
And
looked
Lindsay,
like
it
they
had both of them, Lindsay and Jonathan.
Yeah, at first I didn't realize how much of a beast Lindsay was, and she was probably the strongest woman, and he was the strongest man. So you go like,
Definitely.
why? And I know there's balance. Not everyone was near that level. I felt that way. In 43, I didn't think Baca would end up being probably the strongest. I thought like Coco clearly was going to be the strongest. And 44, Tika, I mean, they got decimated somewhat, rightly so. And I thought Soka was going to do really well and Ratu was going to do really well. But Tika was clearly third place. And this
Right.
season, it feels like with Brandon on that tribe, Hannah, I thought was going to do better. Obviously, it didn't work out. But like when I look at the makeup of Lulu, I'm like, how are they supposed to compete with Bello or Reba? And maybe they didn't plan it. I know personalities and the dynamics between them mean more than physical strength because there's, the challenges so varied. But
Right.
boy, right away with Brandon crying because his anxiety is getting to him, and Hannah
Anna saying, "I
obviously,
need a cigarette." Oh my
yeah,
god.
yeah. I mean, like you can only plan so much, but it seemed like it was doomed to fail. And I like got to the point where, and Emily's like shit talking Bruce right away. Like I, I thought to myself, I was like, man, I feel bad for Caleb being stuck on this tribe because this
I
dude is
know.
going to be a master of the game, and he's with, the Bozo tribe on this
It's
season.
true.
And it's a shame, but it's also created really fun TV where they're the main characters, and
Yes, I
I've
think you're right.
enjoyed it
Lulu is
being
the
centered.
character of the season right now.
It is actually real quick, and I've been meaning to ask this of any castaway I've spoken to that I just haven't yet. Do you recognize which beach they're all on?
Yes,
Like,
we all
so,
do. We talk about it. We'll text each other. You see what? Absolutely recognize your beaches.
so Lulu, which tribe from your season were
I'm trying
they?
to remember
Whose
now.
beach?
Lulu, I think Lulu is. See, now you got to remember, it's 45, so it's 3 seasons past. So I'm like, it was a novelty in 43 and 40. So Lulu, babe, I think Lulu is on my beach, right? I think
Oh,
Lulu's
okay.
on my beach, which is the much more a scenic beach. We have the island on the side, you have the triangle, and you have to
Mhm.
walk up the steps to get into camp. No food, nothing on that island except it's beautiful. And then one island has more food than the others, and the other one has more fishing. So it's just different dynamics for each beach.
Gotcha. Well, you get a pretty scenery. That kind of sucks. You can't eat scenery.
That's exactly how I felt. I could care
Yeah.
less what I looked at. I wanted to eat, and we literally had no. We didn't. We barely had coconuts my season.
Man, okay, so Lulu's the disaster tribe, and they don't have food compared to the
Yes,
other
I'm
two.
pretty sure they're on my beach.
Awesome. What a setup for them, I
It's
tell
so
you.
perfect.
All right. Well, that's yeah, because I did notice a lot of the new era castaways. One of the things that universally gets commented on is, oh, dude, they're on the Ua beach or they're on the Vati beach. Well, they're in trouble.
Each beach distinctly has something, and
Mhm,
not the other two. We had scenery, beautiful, beautiful beach,
mhm.
gorgeous. Except our accommodations sucked and our food sucked. We had none.
It's like a hotel
Yeah, and
with a good view outside, but
Taku
nothing else.
Taku had um the breadfruit. I think it was they had a lot of breadfruit and ripe and unripe papayas. I think we literally had zero. We barely had
Oh,
coconuts.
that's huge. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
huge advantage.
we
That's
didn't. And then you
that's
had
ridiculous.
Jonathan catching fish.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, they had everything over at
Yeah.
Taku at that time. No wonder why they didn't lose that much.
We literally barely ate for the first 12 days. I think we had maybe a half a coconut each.
Man, and I don't know how y'all like. Hopefully, one day, just for my own to fill my own cup in life, I'll play the game. Even if I flame out gloriously, like
Yeah.
episode 3, I at least get to experience an idea of what it's like to not eat for like
All right.
12 days or something. Like that's outrageous to me.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree with you. Listen, go out in a blaze of glory, man.
Absolutely. I've like even though I've said like one or two things about Daniel being quirky, I'd play like Daniel Strunk. He made some moves and they didn't work out.
Daniel was awesome. And that's what I feel bad about Daniel. And I'm going to be honest with you. Daniel caught a lot of slack when he
Mhm,
left. Um, but Daniel knew the game. He was
mhm,
great TV. And honestly, in real life, he's a great guy.
mhm.
He would do anything for you. That's the thing is all these players, like no matter how you look on TV, they're all at the base level, good people. Again, my season and everybody that I've met from Survivor have been amazing people just in life.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I've come to learn. And I think it's part of the reason why I have this channel as it is right now and why I enjoy talking to people like yourself, because honestly, it's just as a community, I think the Survivor community, particularly in the new era, just a lot of love, and for the game and for others, like just good hearts, and that's why it's
Yeah.
really fun to sit here and chat with you today
Yeah, like even
about this stuff.
Marion FaceTimed me the other day and to show me her ring and tell me she just got engaged.
Yeah,
You become family with these people. You go through a lot, you become family with them.
absolutely. Funny enough, Marianne's actually she's on my list of people I wanna bug to chat with about the game one of these days.
Oh,
It's
she's amazing. She's very good. She speaks well, and I'm gonna tell you right now, she is a super fan. She knows everything. Really quick story. I know we're getting late here,
no,
but
please.
really quick story. So we make the final three. I'm the last person to final three because I beat Jonathan and Fire. We go
Mhm.
back to camp, and she goes, "You're number 106." I go, "What is that?" She goes, "You're the 106th person to make it to final tribal." So she knew, and then remember, it's not as straightforward as you think because you have seasons where there was only two that made the final. You have people have done it twice.
Mhm.
You know, more than people. A lot of people have done it twice. So, and some have done it 3 times. But she knew the exact number when I got back. The 106th person ever go to final trial. Just stuff like that. I'm like, how the hell do you even know that?
That's crazy, honestly. I mean, I love it and I respect it. There was a period of time in my life where I could name like the first and last name everyone voted out in order, and that was when I was a
Yeah,
kid and I'd have as much to do. I think I could do up to like season 10 Palau, and that's the last time I could ever do it. But I've never like I would never have known like 106. That's a
yeah. I was like, I
wild
didn't even know what she
thing.
was talking about. So, I mean,
Marianne's a treasure.
Marianne is amazing.
Ah,
And to
I
be
love
fair
her.
about it, I gotta be honest. Everybody from my season, good people, man. Just good people.
Absolutely. And also, the new era doesn't really have, like we were talking about, they don't really have villains per se.
Yeah,
And
they
and
don't.
I'm okay with that, but I also a hot take for everyone out there, for anyone who wants a villain, I don't think fans of the new era really want a villain. I don't think they can handle villains.
I know, not the real villains. There's some good. Randy. Randy's a great villain,
Oh, he's great. They could never handle a
and
Randy
he's
these
fun.
days.
Imagine Randy out there saying what he would say to people.
Oh
You gotta
God, yeah.
love it.
And I say that like as I'm a fan of the new era too, but I'm an old school fan at the same time. So
Me too.
I think that the Survivor's right in the direction they're going. I think they're correct. However, at the same time, I I know I could handle a Randy. Whereas I think
Yes,
some of the newer fans probably
I would
they would not
love a
like it.
Randy. I would
It
love a Randy,
it'd be a breath of
and
air.
even Russell Hands. I would love Russell Hands. It's
Fresh of
fun
air.
TV.
Fresh breath. Yes, Russell Hantz. I mean, obviously, there's been a little controversy with Russell Hantz lately, um,
Yeah, he does
where,
this.
him and another former winner, they're not apparently on. They had a little social media tiff, and
Yeah,
Russell kind
that's
of
what.
showed how much of a villain he.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, and I'll say it. Wendell is one of the best guys I've ever met from Survivor.
Wendell's amazing. I'm fully
Amazing,
on Wendell's side.
amazing. And to be
Full
fair,
disclosure.
I think Russell said he was drunk. The things you do when you're drunk. I think he did it stupidly. But listen, you can't do it. You just can't do it. You got to be in control.
Absolutely, and I'll say because we've pretty much already talked about it, and Wendell actually made a podcast about it, discussing it. Yeah, essentially, like Russell, I guess, randomly texted Wendell. Wendell kind of showed everyone the random text, even though they haven't talked in like 3 years. And Russell, it was a bad text, essentially saying like, "Hey, I see you don't follow me. Is it because I'm
Yeah,
white?"
a jerky
Which
text. It was just a jerky text.
it was a jerk text, but this is Russell Hantz we're talking about. He's not
Yes,
known for being a nice guy. Um, but he's a great character, so
great.
separate things. And Russell in retaliation, apparently he was so annoyed that he decided to post Wendell's number for
He
everyone to
did.
see.
Wendell had to change his phone number.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. But like you said, Wendell's a really awesome dude. He gives
Awesome.
back a lot to the Survivor community,
Yes,
and
Wendell's a
I
great.
love
Him and
Wendell.
Bryce. Bryce is too. Both of them. Great guys.
Absolutely. And as I'm from Philadelphia, from Northeast Philadelphia, so I
That's
have the
right. They're
Philadelphia
Philly
connection with
boys.
them, and I love those guys. So that makes me really happy. But yeah, so some of that happened, but overall, like the community is pretty good, and Russell is a big villain. I don't think they could ever have one like him again.
No.
We're probably not going to have a castaway ever go on camera and say, "Yeah, I have them. I call it my dumbass girl alliance." I don't think they're ever going to
Yes.
have that
Never
happen again.
have that again.
But anyway, to kind of more wrap it up
Yeah.
because it's actually fun here. It's Michael's birthday, so happy
Yes.
birthday, buddy.
My
I didn't
birthday.
formally say that. Right now, he's
Maybe
going to
see
have some
that.
festivities going on later today. But before we get off of here, we want to talk about Sabaya's ultimate vote. I mean,
Yes.
obviously, the number one interesting thing is Sabaya found an idol too, but instead of having to dig and smash a rock with a hammer, her idol was coated with wax, and the only way she could get the wax off and become an idol, she had to burn it in a fire. But
How
Lulu
awesome was
hasn't
that?
had flint, so
I
she
think
had
it was
no choice.
brilliant.
She had to throw it in the tribal council fire, and like as Mike's saying, that I think that was brilliant too. I mean,
I
but
loved
like,
it.
would you yourself, if you didn't feel like you were in danger, if you felt like you were empowered, do you think you would have boldly just put the idol in the fire like that?
I think, um, again, I told you, I think she had a choice: either do that or not have a vote, which she wound up not using anyway. But at that
Mhm.
point, she thinks she needs her vote. And here's your choice: everybody knows I have an idol, or I go in there without a vote with only four of us left. And she said, "Well, I don't care if they know I have an idol now. If I get my idol, which I will have, I'll have a vote. I can do whatever I want." That's what you're thinking, so you don't care.
Mhm.
So obviously, that's what she did. But then her other dilemmas when she gets it, it's only good for one that tribal right there. So she either had to use it right then and there, or she doesn't have it anymore, or she loses her vote. And she chose to lose her vote because she felt secure.
Yeah, in that moment, that was a tough one, but it was very tough. But I have to say, like from an actual viewership standpoint, how funny was it? Like every 45 seconds to a minute, Sabaya would pop back up and say, "Hey, I'm just gonna go check in on this," like she was cooking a
That's great.
steak. Like it was so funny just how quirky it was. And I have to tell you, I'm convinced. I think the week before, I swear, unless I'm making this up, I swear on the Jeff Probst podcast, he said that you wouldn't be able to throw the idol in the tribal fire.
I thought I
Like
heard that too, but
I swear he said like that wouldn't be allowed.
I
And
can't
then
remember if
obviously
it was asked.
the week after, obviously it did happen. Sabaya did it, and Probst seemed to be a little bit put off while it was happening, but he clearly was like, I'm gonna let this happen. And
Yeah,
I intrigued because that's something everyone at home, I think you have to remember. Probst realistically can probably audible whenever he wants to.
he can
Um,
absolutely.
if he really wants to. Like I've heard stories like I don't know if anyone remembers the longest challenge in Survivor history, at least American Survivor, back in Palau when Tom and Ian were hanging on like buoys in the water and it lasted
Yes,
like 16 hours. Tom Westman told a story on Rob Has a Podcast. He said, "We were out there for so long and they didn't know any of that. They didn't think it was going to last that long." Probst eventually got to a point where he said, "All right, you got like a minute and then you're only going to have 1 foot on the buoy," because
yes,
they wanted
he
it
would
to end.
absolutely do that. He definitely
And
has that
supposedly,
ability.
and the way Tom described it was Tom actually, this is the first time I've ever heard this. Tom said, "No, I'm not doing that." And Probst said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "No, you put down rules and this is what we're doing, right?" And Probst took it back, but Probst in the middle of these things can do that. So I'm not surprised, like even if he did initially intend for it not to go into the tribal fire, he probably audibled in that moment and said, "This is going to be interesting on TV. We're going with it."
Right. So let me ask you
And
a question.
sure.
Do you think because of what happened with Lulu, this is the first time they're having a tribe swap in the new era?
That's a great question because I don't think there's been a tribe decimated like this
I
in the new
agree.
era. Um, I mean, Ua wasn't very good in 41, but it wasn't like this.
No, nobody went
You're
down to final three in a tribe.
no, you're right because like Tika only got down to 3. Well, it didn't even get to 3. It got to no, it was at 3. But the very last vote going into the merge, so they
Right. It was into the
probably
merge, so it didn't matter.
no.
So my
Yeah,
thing is,
you may be
could
right,
there have
Mike.
been
Go
a
ahead.
tribe swap in from 41 to 44 if a tribe went down to three within the first three tribals, you lost three Lulu, so you're down to three. You either have a tribe swap or you have somebody, a tribe that's decimated. Now you're sitting three out because remember the new rule is nobody gets sit out back. So now you have three sitting out. Might as well
Mm.
just have a tribe swap.
Honestly, you make a great point here. I want to so the fan in me and the enthusiast wants to say no, it was going to happen no matter what because Probst is listening to the fans.
Right.
Because usually and typically in the past, at least in the old school Survivor, I think episode 4, if they did a tribal swap, that's the episode it would happen.
Right.
So that's me feeling like maybe they planned it. However, I can totally 100% see Probst going like, okay, it's getting to a point where it's going to get ugly, and we're going to be down to only 2 tribes when it comes to the merge, Bello and Reba, because Lulu's just not going to be able to compete, especially with no food. Like realistically, they're not going to
Exactly.
win. So I think I'd like to say it's a little of both. Like
I think you
maybe
got to
they
mix
kicked
it
it
up.
around.
I think they have contingent plans. I think they have this. Listen, first of all, production is so amazing. They have it's the Rolls Royce of these shows. They have everything covered, and I think they do have contingency plans. What if this happens? What if we have a 3-person medevac? What do we do then? So I
Mhm.
do think they have it covered. I think they also have it covered when a tribe gets decimated, and it almost becomes, the challenges are not even fair anymore. They can't compete as well. You got it. So and I think that's why the merge can happen in situations like not the merge. I keep saying the merge. I mean the tribe swap can happen.
Definitely. And I think we've seen this kind of thing play out in the one I think of right away, honestly, is Survivor Philippines. That tribe Matt Singh with like Malcolm and Russell
Yes.
who returned to the game, like they were so bad, they lost everything that it got to the point where it was like, we're just gonna have the remaining 2 tribes pick people from what's left of Matt Singh, and you're just gonna join those 2 tribes. I don't like it's kind of tough because I don't know if they're gonna do that now because they're so used to the 3 tribe format that they're just gonna keep like they have every challenge set up for 3 tribes.
Yes.
So like maybe they could audible, but I don't know. 3 tribes is probably I don't even know what
So
I'm
you think?
saying
Wait, so
anymore
you
at
think
this
the
point.
tribe swap's going to be 3 tribes and not two?
I think it'll be 3. I don't think it'll be 2.
I don't
Um,
think so.
because
I
what are
mean,
the numbers?
listen, I
6?
honestly don't know. I'm thinking it's going to go to two. I think if they do
Oh,
three,
6, 6,
well,
3.
okay, we have.
15. There'll be 3 tribes of 5.
You're right. You're
Um,
right. It could be 3 tribes
yeah,
of
so
five.
they'll
Right. So I
probably
think you're
do
right.
that.
It's not an even number. So you might be right.
Yeah, because there's still 6 on
You're not
Bella,
going to have
6
8
on
and 7
Reba, and
tribes.
3 Lulu. So it should be 15 people, and there probably will be 3 or 5.
You're right. You're
And
probably right. It
yeah,
makes it
so I
much more
mean,
interesting.
I'm down with that. With 90-minute before I didn't like 3 tribe format because I thought we didn't learn enough about the individual players having to spend time on this tribe, this tribe, this tribe.
Yes,
But now with 90 minutes, honestly, it's felt pretty seamless. I love it.
I agree.
So I
I
can't
love the
really
90 minutes.
it's working, and then it makes me really sad for seasons like yourself where I'm like, I could have learned a lot more about other people in 90-minute episodes in 42.
There was so much you didn't see. And I think that's what every season. There's so much you don't see because
Absolutely.
again, it's they're taping 100% of the time we're out there.
Mhm.
There's so much you can't show. Obviously, you don't have the time. But the
Absolutely.
90 minutes gives you a little insight.
I want to see goofy stuff. Like and I understand the new
Yeah.
era has a lot of like the mechanics, like how much time we spent on idols and the catchphrase that you had, and like who they lost their votes. So we need to show the players strategizing how to avoid knowledge's power,
Yeah.
who probably lost their vote, and like there's so much actual vote talk that we
Panic.
don't and panic. You're
The
right,
panic.
that
When
we
I
don't
found out I
see.
lost my vote when I took it, it was a panic because I knew that the dynamic was I had 2, 3 definitely, and I have to lose my vote. Now we only have 2 votes because we knew Lindsay and High were a team, and so now I'm panicking about my Chanel. So I go to Danielle. You sure we got Chanel? It's just a whole. And it's funny to watch that too when you're panicking out there because you forget the cameras are on. You're like, what the fuck did I just? Oh my god! You freak out a little bit.
It's
You
so
do.
secondary, I'm sure. Like the cameras
Yes,
become trees at that point while you're
a
trying to
hundred percent.
fight
They
for your
do.
life. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like all that stuff is super interesting, but because there's so many twists, there has to be more of it. So other stuff has to
Yes.
get cut out. But I'm glad for the 90 minutes because like I want to see dumb stuff. I want to see Brando bonding with the girls, putting a buff over his torso, which
I want to
there
see.
probably there
You
probably
see
wouldn't be
Bruce
time.
doing the robot.
Bruce doing the robot, just being silly, just doing like this
Yes.
stuff randomly. Like I love
Yeah.
that. But like and even up to Winners at War, we got to have little segments of like Tony making a ladder out of bamboo. That had nothing to do with the game. It was just them being kind of goofy and seeing some stuff because I'm sure there's a
Yes.
million things you all did at your beach that doesn't make it. And maybe particularly 41, I would have liked to see more because I don't like Survivor 41. So if there had been 90 minutes, maybe I would have been a little more invested
True. You're
in
more
some of the
invested.
people. But the only one I really was invested in were Ricard because he was just a great player, And oddly enough, Brad from the Uwe tribe. I just thought
I
he
love
was really
Brad too.
goofy.
Actually, I love that. I love the characters in that season. I'm not gonna say I had to get used to the season. It was different than the rest, but I like
Mhm.
the characters.
Absolutely. I love Eric as a person, but like in the game, I was like, eh. But anyway, I'm divulging a little bit
Okay,
as we get closer to wrap up. I apologize. The
that's
problem
okay.
is,
I'm
listen, the
getting an
problem
eyeball from
is
my
Mike.
wife right now. She goes like, "Babe." So,
The mic is just too damn enjoyable. That's really what it comes down to. That's the
true.
problem here. Okay.
Yes.
So Sabaya, obviously, as we talked about, she doesn't play her idol. She chooses to try to extend it, so she loses her vote and she keeps her idol. And the vote right before this, Emily knows the fix is in on Caleb. Tells Caleb, says, one of my like goofy favorite lines. Listen to me. You need to vote for Sabaya. This isn't Emily trying to save her ass. This is Emily trying to save your ass.
Great
And
line.
it's great. It's wonderful to watch. And again, if Caleb is as good a liar as I think he is, which he is, he knows how people are when like with their tells. There was nothing in that moment, I think, that would indicate Emily was lying.
I agree. I would have believed her 100%.
So I'm glad that he eventually did vote for Sabaya. He also knew that ultimately, like it could go 2-2, at least would be a tie. And he had the
Right.
option to turn around on Emily. So it like overall, it was a win-win to vote with Emily, other than I guess you could have fractured something with Sabaya,
Right.
but the risk was worth the reward.
Yes.
So Sabaya does get voted out by not playing it. Caleb and Emily now are in the dominant chair, and Sean, who we haven't talked about too much, I actually thought he was kind of riding a good. I think he's going to be a good player long term, depending on how the swap goes. Um, but he's now in the minority, and it overall it was a very triumphant moment. I thought, even though I love Sabaya, I thought she could have gone really far had circumstances played
I
out a
did
little
too.
differently. I mean, the fact that she took control of the tribe that early, pretty impressive. I
Yes.
think. But she was someone that didn't have long for this world based on the edit, I thought she was just too dominant.
And the thing about what ultimately did her doom is
Mhm.
she kind of went head to head with another player in her tribe, Emily, and at that moment, Emily wasn't going to stand up for her and try and help her.
Mm-mm.
And that's again, everything means something, and Caleb did. Instead of
Absolutely.
Caleb took her as an ally, where Sabaya didn't, and that's ultimately what did her in.
And
And
moving
that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's better, even if you feel a certain way about somebody out there, don't say anything.
yeah.
It's not worth it.
They always say I remember back in the old days, just like season 2 even or season 3, some people back then, their advice was number one piece of advice I have for Survivor, at least starting the game, is shut your mouth.
Well, and that was my advice from my wife. My wife's number one advice to me is just shut up. Just don't say anything. You're
Mouth
loud, but you
closed,
don't
ears open.
whisper. Just shut up.
And it's so tough when, you're a strong opinionated person playing with other strong opinionated
That's
people,
exactly. We're all
you're
type A's out there.
you're trying to fight for like social space at the same time not becoming the number one, and it's tough.
It's a very tough line to walk. And then,
Mhm.
to be honest with you, every time somebody out there wanted to be the top dog, I was happy. I was happy.
Yeah.
I was like,
Take
good.
a you
They're gonna focus
always
on you. I'm just gonna
be the
right.
assistant coach. Everyone gets mad at the head
Right.
coach, but usually
Remember they
people like
say
that the assistant.
the most important person in the room is not the president; it's the person who's giving the president advice.
Mhm.
That's how I always looked at that. So when I'm out there, I would just try and talk what I thought should happen, but never give my total opinion out loud because you're gonna offend somebody.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's no takes that can't be manipulated while you're in the game. No matter what you do, there's always someone who can try to spin it to their advantage. So you got to be calculated, but I think you also have to accept that too. So it
Yes.
makes sense. I mean, Sabaya did that. Sabaya sent Caleb off and then immediately said how dangerous he was to everyone else.
Yes.
Um, and obviously it didn't go to her favor, which is fine. But right now, Caleb and Emily are kind of set up, but with the swap coming, which is kind of the last little mini topic, is with the swap coming up, who do you think moving forward, who are the people that you think who needed it the most, essentially, assuming they get in a somewhat okay or
Well,
favorable tribe format?
right off the bat, Sean needed it a ton because
Hmm.
he's sitting at the bottom. He was totally out of the vote, and he got blindsided by the vote. So him immediately.
Hmm.
Um, and the other tribes, I
Well, like,
honestly,
let's go to Reba. Like, how about the Reba tribe?
who's in Reba again? Give me who's in there again.
So like for the Reba tribe, and I'll just kind of lay them out here for you at the bottom of the screen.
Oh,
So like, so the Reba tribe, you got Mama J, Sifu, D, Drew, J Maya, and Austin.
I think Sifu a little bit only because he's not with the dynamics of the tribe, and D is a little bit out. Maybe J on, but I just think we haven't seen enough of them to understand it. That here's like we talked about this before. We don't know where they stand because they haven't been to a tribal. We don't
Mhm.
know who's on the ins or the outs truly yet until we
Mhm.
see who votes for who. You know,
Yeah,
you see a person's true colors when the crap is hitting the fan, and the crap hasn't hit the fan yet. So it's
that's right.
hard to say. I mean, the biggest one is again with Lulu, Whatchamacallits, Sean is the biggest
Sean has an
beneficiary.
issue
Yeah,
for
he's in
sure.
trouble.
Now I'll tell
So
you real quick, just to add on to well, obviously I'm total agree with you about Sean. Sean's cooked right now if they have to go back to tribal as Lulu, but thankfully the swap's coming, so they don't. With Reba, my number one is J Maya. She's kind of been out of the loop here. They've
true.
shown in clips that like she's bright and she can do a lot. Like she was trying to decipher the script on the flag without
Yes,
having anything to go by. Um, but she's clearly been on the out because there was that portion where they were hunting for the idol, and Austin, I think, said that we
that's
have
true.
D babysitting Sifu and J Maya back at camp while we're trying to figure it out.
That's true.
So it seems like they're both on the outs, but J Maya is the one I think will probably benefit the most long run. And then if we move over to Bello, that this is actually kind of a tough one because I think it's only going to hurt people's positions. But
Yes,
oddly enough, I think Bruce comes out of it good whether they swap or they don't.
I agree.
Um, and like Jake probably will benefit a little bit. I'm a huge fan of Kelly, the game she's building right now.
Yep.
So Bello, honestly, it could go bad or like they're a total Pandora's box to me. The only one I feel confident will be fine is Bruce.
Sure.
But everyone else, Katura depends on how she acts on the other tribe. Like if she is with Bruce and she targets them, I think she's gonna lose that one.
I
She's just
agree. He's
gotta,
likable.
exactly. He's super likable and he's strong, and everyone likes that in pre-merge.
I agree.
Post-merge, different discussion, but yeah.
I
So
agree.
that's brilliant. Awesome. Okay, so we can only infer so much from the swap, but we're not going to go too deep into that because there's a lot to go. But ultimately, I mean, I think the vibes for the season is going pretty well. Is that fair to say?
I think it's going great. I'm loving it.
Absolutely. And the main credits, I know it's a bummer that 42 didn't get one, but are
Main
you
credits.
I know, I see the sad
The
face. I
intros,
feel sad for
man.
you.
It's iconic.
It is. It gets the tone set immediately, and like
Yes.
fans have made them, but it's not the same.
Not the same.
And hopefully that I really hope with my heart of hearts that CBS does a solid for the fans and more importantly for the castaways like yourself who have given a huge part of yourself to the game, that they retroactively at least make some so that you can say you have your own credits.
That would be very
Um,
cool. Or
it's
or
yeah.
I get asked to go on a returning season. I get another one.
Oh, Mike Turner, I would love that. I think we're like because we're getting to that point, Mike,
We're
where
getting
I
close,
think
I think. I don't know, man. Obviously, we
like
don't hear anything, but I want to
I
win.
mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, you want to go out there and redeem it. I still think you played what seemed to be on TV for sure the best game to win 42. However, obviously, it's just final tribal. We talked about this a little bit. Final tribal, it just basically you kind of didn't give the jury what they wanted, which
I
obviously is
did.
very important. But there's a key, that's a decision to make because you are who you are and you stayed true
Yeah.
to that the whole time.
Yeah. And you know what? The truth is, I underestimated the power of the jury, and it's my fault. I take total blame for that.
Mhm.
That's
Absolutely,
why I need a second chance.
yeah, you absolutely need a second chance. I think so. I mean, especially if they do a Survivor second chance again, I would be through the roof because I love that format.
Me too.
Although, my favorite format is hero versus villains, but I
Oh,
think
I
the new
love
era
that too. I would love, but I don't know if we have enough villains. But I do. I
agreed
do.
because the villain tribe would be like a bunch of people that aren't really villains. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
maybe like Jesse from 43 would be on villains, but
Yes.
like Omer would be a villain, but he's not a villain.
He's not
So
a super villain, but he's a villain. I mean, I guess when you play a quiet game where you're just making moves behind the scenes, that you're considered a villain. But to me, that's
yeah,
just playing the game. There's no true villain. There's no mean people out there.
no, I don't think so. There's no Russell Hansons out there anymore.
Right.
No, that guy was a villain.
Yes,
Even
you're right,
like
though.
some of the people in the villains tribe back at season 20 when they had 20 seasons to work with. I didn't
Yes,
even think some of them were villains. I
I
mean,
agree. Somebody's like,
like
I'm a
Jerry
thug. I don't
Manthey
know.
wasn't really a villain,
Yeah,
but
she was, and she's the sweetest lady, man. She's such a nice lady.
and Sandra wasn't a villain at all. She
I
was just a
agree that
straight
too. Sandra's
talker.
amazing. All
And
amazing people. I
yeah,
agree.
even Coach was a goofball, but he wasn't a villain. Like,
No, yeah, I love
so
Coach.
so I would love to see that format come back, but second chances, hopefully with Mike Turner, is
Ah,
going to come in the near future. That'd be
I'm in,
great.
Kev.
Yeah, you absolutely. You heard it here first, Probes. He's in. All right, so we're gonna close up because Mike's got some fun stuff to do today. Can't just talk on the
Yes,
Super Fun Time Show forever. Thank you very much for talking with me today,
it's a
buddy.
pleasure.
Hopefully in the future we'll talk a little bit more. And I think I'm gonna see you at one of these Bryce and Wen
I
things.
think you will, Kev. Then we'll go like the bro hug. We'll do it all.
Absolutely. I'm gonna straight up koala you. So which that means is
Okay.
even though I'm 6'2", this is gonna be a little weird. I'm gonna jump to the side and hang on to you like a little koala because that's how much I love you, buddy.
That's how I met my wife.
No, okay. Oh, and he's got adorable little doggy too, by the way.
I do, Brando.
I could hear Brando playing with the squeak toy throughout
Yeah,
part of it.
he's like saying, okay, I've been in my crate way too long. Get me the hell out of here, Dad.
Yeah, no, but I love him. It's all good. It's we're very happy to have that. So yeah, check out the next week. We're gonna have another episode recap. Obviously, not sure if it's gonna be with anyone or just myself. Absolutely, that's the case. And remember, I have a buff giveaway going on right now for anyone who is interested in winning a Reba buff because I'm a big buff fan. Who doesn't want to wear a beautiful Reba tribe buff on their body, just like Brando? But
Yes.
that's gonna do it for this episode. Thank you all very much. Hope you all have an absolutely amazing day and take care, everybody.
Thanks, Kev.